Screening as part of the Melbourne Documentary Film Festival in July this year is a documentary called A Journey Between the Fires, Troy Cassar-Daley. And it's my great pleasure to be speaking to the director of the film, Belinda Miller. Belinda, welcome to Movie Metropolis.
Hi, Peter. How you going? Thanks for having me.
Pleasure. Good to talk to you. And this is a film about Troy's album that he made after the death of his mother. Tell me about how it all came about that you were able to direct this film.
Yeah, sure. Look, I've got a long friendship and history with Troy Cassar-Daley, and I've done a lot of work with him over the years. And so, I think for Troy, he wanted to bring a team of creative people around him that he trusted, and that he felt comfortable around, and that he could really be himself around. I was lucky enough to get that phone call, Peter. Let me tell you, it's been an absolute honor to work with Troy on telling and sharing his story. And and he brought his great mate Mick McCartan and Michael Byers, and his manager Rox was there. So really small team for a documentary, but I think Troy needed to feel comfortable, and I think we all sort of understood the journey that he had to go on. And of course, Peter, Troy was there to make an album. So for us covering his journey making the album, we just had to make sure that we respected his space and understood what he was there to do, and that was to record an album. But also, he was grieving at the same time. So, from the filmmaker's perspective, there was a lot going on, but first and foremost, the album came first.
Aha, how interesting to hear that backstory. So tell me, how much did you negotiate with him about what was going to be in the film and whether he had final cut or final say about anything?
Oh, absolutely, he did. Troy sort of trusted us with sharing his story. So we did a fine cut and got up to where it was ready to show Troy. And then he came and he watched it, and then he had his perspective over it and sort of wanted to add another song into the mix. And he also really wanted to make sure that the story wasn't just about sadness or grieving. It was joy. There was uplifting moments. There were moments of fun and laughter. So he had a lot of input into the story. But it was just amazing to get his feedback and the trust that he gave us to share his story.
Sure. No, I understand that. In fact, I think it's said in the film, the healing power of music and country. And
Oh,
that's part of the film, I think.
oh, absolutely. Like he's on his own country. So there is something spiritual that comes with that. That was his childhood home.
Mm.
So it was an absolute place of connection. His family have had that, his mum has had a house on her own country for generations. And there's 90 acres of it's just absolutely stunning. And for Troy to be able to be on his own country in his childhood home making an album, I mean, I think that's why he is so honest with his own truth telling, and to be able to be surrounded, all the wildlife, the birds, and also you would have seen in the documentary, Troy takes us to some really special, significant sites, and the scar tree was phenomenal, and he left that to the very last day to show us the scar tree that has been there for hundreds and hundreds of years and has gone through floods and fire. And to see that scar tree, for Troy to stand inside it, like he said he can feel it. And we all felt that. And to be able to have that connection to country, um, he's really lucky to be able to have that. And I think that comes through with the person that he is, the stories that he shares, and the songs that he sings. There's
Mm.
something really magical about that day, and he has taken, like he said, he's taken all his friends there, his children have grown up there as well. So to be able to connect with his family and his late mother, but to be able to have such significant cultural sites that continue that story about our culture, our cultural practices, and most importantly, identity and connection to country. And the
Yes,
healing that comes through that as well, because he had to heal on country. He
right.
chose to heal on country because that was the place where he felt so safe, and a lot of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people go through their journey of grief. And he says this a lot deeper, but to be able to do that on country was really important for him, and the fire as well, lighting the fire every day, having that smoke come in and out of the house, to be able to smell it and feel it and see him collect the firewood all day. That was just a part of his journey to be able to create a space where he felt really comfortable and calm to be able to sing these phenomenal songs and also to be able to share so openly and honest with us. Yeah.
Very interesting to hear that. And hence the title of the film, A Journey Between the Fires. What made you settle on that as the title?
Well, I suppose the album's called Between the Fires, and it is a real journey. We start off in the car driving down a road that he has driven hundreds of times before with his mother. We went past quite a few significant cultural sites. You can see where he's driving along. He always feels quite emotional around a particular spot on that road because it was a massacre site. These are stories that have been handed down to Troy and his family for generations. And for him in 2023, when we recorded the documentary, these are stories that he will continue to share and pass on to his children. And I think the whole nation needs to hear that. These, it's Troy's family home, it's his country, but there's also such amazing stories and strong stories to be able for us to be able to reflect on what happened in this country. So we went past a road on the trains that his mum used to work on the trains. So it is a journey because he does take us on a journey. He takes us into a place that only a few of us got to experience, but we bring the whole nation and the whole world with us on his country, into his house, through the front gate. So it is a complete journey for him on his past, his history, his continuing story, and the legacy that he wants to leave behind with the songs that he created. So it was a real journey each day. We were there for 14 days or over 2 weeks. And for me, as a storyteller, I felt as if it was a journey of somebody who is grieving, recording an album, and wanting to. And he's just so beautiful with his time. And the group of musicians that he had, we were all on a journey. We're all a part of that. And it's something that I will carry with me forever. And everybody will that was there that week. And we want the audience, the people watching this, to feel as if they're a part of that story and that journey too.
Uh-huh. Again, so interesting to hear that. So, are you saying that the film was shot over 2 weeks? Were you pretty much there every day? Were you doing most of the shooting? How did it all work?
Yeah, so I was there for probably for about, over 2 weeks, I think, or just around about 14 days, I think it was. And I got there on a Friday, and then all the band arrived on the Saturday. And then I pretty much, when I was there, I was just filming on my iPhone, Peter, before the crew arrived. Wake up and Troy, was around the fire playing his guitar, right? So there was just sort of moments, and it's really amazing to be there to see the transformation of a house being turned into a recording studio.
Hmm.
So we were there watching tables being moved and chairs being moved. And that was the physical side of it. But that was also extremely difficult for Troy to be able to physically do that as well, to be able to move his mother's things that he hadn't touched since her passing. So yeah, we were there for 2 weeks. We had to find those moments of when we could record and when we couldn't record. But as you can see, we had the cameras rolling a lot of the time,
Hmm.
and but we also had to understand, like I said before, first and foremost, the album came first. To be able to see the musicians set up all their equipment, the sound engineer Jordan was just amazing and just had recorded in houses before and loved the fact that he was recording in a house before, but just making sure technically everything was set up to record the album. And we just also, as the film crew, had to make sure we didn't really get in the way of that. But I think we respected that. And we did capture a lot of footage because Troy is very, very open with allowing us to shoot whenever. Yeah.
Yep. Absolutely, and it's so interesting to see his process of writing those songs and expressing those emotions and feelings, and capturing that also, as you've already mentioned, in with good sound quality, so that we can hear these songs properly.
Yeah, well, as Troy said, he did want as Jordan said as well, the sound engineer, the record will sound as if it's been filmed in this house. And so yeah, and the part where they're putting some of the look, I don't have the right terminology for this, but they're putting some of the speakers in the back of Troy's Prado. So there was this whole technical side set up. And of course, one of the guitar players was, outside of like the bathroom, in a quiet spot, and there were mics set up in bedrooms. And it just completely blew my mind, seeing technically how they do, how Jordan engineered and put all of this knowledge, and to be able to, he sang songs with such honesty and such rawness and so emotion put into it. It's sort of sometimes hard to explain, Peter. That's why the documentary really does capture that, I think,
Mm,
especially, towards the end of the documentary, the song he sang, and when he was also singing on the veranda, and just moments where he just sort of, obviously he felt so comfortable with us, but he was able to really share that emotion, and he broke down a few times because he was just in his, you know, he completely felt it himself, and he doesn't shy away from the fact that, he was still grieving and is still grieving.
wow. Okay. So interesting. Uh, as you said, you shot a lot of footage. What was the
Mm.
editing process like? Because that in itself would be quite a challenge to get it down to the 90 minutes that it is.
It was a challenge, but Michael Bryce just did a phenomenal job, and I think it does help that Troy is such a great storyteller. When he starts speaking about things and when he starts explaining where we are and what we're doing and what the song is about, he's so well versed, And so from an, to do the edit, Michael Bryars put in so much hard work and so many hours. But Troy is such a great storyteller that helps.
Mm,
And so we just had to be able to make sure that we pieced it together in such a way. And I think we sort of just decided that it was very linear in terms of the storytelling of this, because there was day one, day two, day three, day four. But within that, there was also a daily routine that Troy did. He got up in the morning and he went and chopped wood. He made sure that fire was going all day. So we just followed him throughout each day, naturally, what he was doing. And the story sort of evolved like that as well. But I mean, editing is always a challenge.
mm,
But most importantly, out of all of it, we had to make sure that Troy was happy with the way that we were sharing his story. Yeah. And we also have to think about, and from my perspective too, I always think about an audience and the ebb and flow of an emotion of telling a story, and being able to, there are moments where Troy is obviously very upset, and then there's moments of joy. So it's about being able to, you also knowing when the audience, feels like having a cry and when we have to lift them up and bring them down. So the documentary is very much ebb and flow. And I think that's storytelling, and everybody tells stories differently. This is how we chose to tell this story, I don't think there's any hard and fast rule with I just think it's always about trying to, and of course Troy is so honest and giving and sharing, so that made it easy for us. But I always believe that, I always think about an audience too and what people will take from this.
mm. Okay, interesting to hear all that, certainly. So, with the final cut, how did Troy and other family members, etc., all react to the film?
Oh, so beautiful. I mean, you know, Troy, after he watched it, we had such a big chat on the phone, and he just loved it. He loved how we captured everything. He loved, he was so, he wanted to really make sure, though, that it wasn't just about sadness, it was also about joy and happiness. So he was really clear with us about that. Um, there was particular songs that he wanted in there, so it was great to get that feedback. But earlier in this year, Peter, in 2025, at the Tamworth Country Music Festival, we premiered the documentary, and all of Troy's family, so, well, a lot of Troy's family from Grafton were there, and his mother's sister, Annie Carroll, was there, and it was beautiful, and his cousins, and it was just lovely. And you're always nervous about how they're going to react, but they just loved it. They were overjoyed. Lots of tears. But this is all about, keeping Annie Irene's memory alive and the impact that she had on Troy, and also for Troy to be able to, you know, he is constantly wanting to make sure that people can, that he's a part of their healing journey as well if they're going through something. So, and he was really honest about the grieving process. And I think for his family to see that, I mean, they were just overjoyed with it and obviously really emotional. Yeah.
Ah, great to hear all that. Okay. I mean, we should mention that people watching this documentary or watching this interview may not necessarily know Troy Cassar-Daley is a major musical force in Australia and has won many awards for his music, for his songs, and so on, which is significant to reveal.
Oh, look, ARIA Awards, Golden Guitar Awards, major award winner at this year's Country Music Awards in Tamworth from the album Between the Fires. He won an ARIA for this album as well. I mean, he's has just and the awards to Troy, like he's so humble, but of course, I mean, I think he's the best songwriter in the country and most definitely the best vocalist in the country, if not the world. So he's just such an amazing talent. But what people connect with is honesty. And that's what, makes him, you know, makes his stories really resonate with people, is he's so honest. And the Troy that you see on TV and the Troy that you see at the awards and the interviews that he does, that's exactly who he is.
Hmm.
Mm.
Great to hear all that. Belinda, I must ask you, tell me about some of your other credits and what got you into filmmaking in the first place.
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, I started off at Murray Radio back in the day, Peter, which is an Aboriginal and country music radio station in Brisbane. And it was there that, I covered a lot of music events and was a part of a lot of major events that happened in the country, like the Olympics and Corroboree 2000 and the Walk Across the Bridge. And so my passion is telling stories about and for my people. I think it's really important. And I think with the way that we're stereotyped in the media, I want to be a part of changing that narrative. So storytelling for me, of course, it's been passed on down to me, but I feel really lucky to be able to work um, and continuing, to be able to make sure that there is a change in the way that we're perceived um, across Australia. And media haven't always been very friendly to us, and there's been a lot of misinformation. So I really feel a responsibility to be able to change that. So I started off on Murray Radio. I've worked with a few production companies, and now I'm with NITV SBS. And I think that's I've worked on some amazing programs and been a part of some really amazing events as well. But I think if anything, I just want to make sure that we get to be able to share our stories our way and that we start the journey of truth telling. And so I feel as if, media is a really important platform to be able to, put that out. And so, yeah, I love the work that I do and to be able to work. Right now, I'm working on a current affairs program and I love working for NITV, but I'm also really lucky to be able to do a few side projects as well. So I've got the best of both worlds.
Oh, excellent to hear all that. That sounds terrific. And NITV is this very impressive station, screens some really fantastic stuff.
Yeah.
And Belinda, are there any particular films, filmmakers, etc., that might have influenced you in terms of your approach to working on film, documentary, or whatever?
Oh, look, I'm absolutely the biggest fan of Rachel Perkins and the way that she tells stories and the documentaries and the films that she has done. Warwick Thornton is another one. I've been surrounded by some phenomenal storytellers with the work that I do, like Rhoda Roberts. So yeah, I mean, there's so much amazing work out there, and I'm constantly inspired, But it's rather than the filmmaker, I'm very much inspired and by filmmakers. But what I'm really inspired by is everyday people who have got a story to share.
Hmm. Fair
Mm.
enough, fair enough. Belinda, it's been terrific talking to you. We've been speaking to Belinda Miller, who's the director of A Journey Between the Fires, Troy Cassar-Daley, and that documentary is screening as part of the Melbourne Documentary Film Festival in July. Belinda, it's been a pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Peter. Have a wonderful day, and thank you for your time.
Pleasure. All the best. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye.